Hey everyone, Patrick Redford here, and of course that is still not my real name, and my good friend Ben Blau. And we're here talking about some of the material from Temporarily Out of Order. This is a trick, actually, that is not in the book, which goes completely against what I just said. And the reason this is not in the book, and it might be in one of the future sequels to this book, keep an eye out for Completely Out of Order and Slightly Out of Order. I've thought about this. And the reason it's not in print yet is for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't think it fit in this book because there is some sleight of hand involved in the trick. And two, I haven't done all the necessary research into it to credit all the appropriate people along the way. So before I put it, ink into paper, I wanted to be sure to have all my ducks in a row. That said, I've been asked by a few people to share these techniques. I make no claim that this is 100% mine. In fact, it's based off the brilliant work of Michael Close, who put his version of the invisible deck inside Workers number 5 back in the 90-somethings. I'll have to look up the exact date of that, and it will scroll on the screen or something like that in post. That's how prepared we are. I've made some changes to that routine, but before I get into how I've changed the routine, let me show you what it looks like. Hold that. Before you got here today, I took one card out of that pack at random, turned it face up, slipped it dead center in the middle of the pack right next to one of the red queens. You're going to tell me what that card is. I don't want you to guess. If you guess, this won't work. So when I snap my fingers, you're going to name red or black. Whatever you name, that's what we use. And we'll do that for the suits, and then we'll do that for the values. Okay. Red or black? Red. Red. Interesting. Hearts or diamonds? Diamonds. Diamonds. I'll do this one more time, but don't go with the first thing that comes to mind this time. Change your mind. So whatever comes to mind first, change your mind before you say it out loud. Any value.
8.
The 8 of diamonds.
Yeah.
And you can see that you actually thought about this because you had that moment of, ooh, no, not that one. And the reason I have you do that is because you get in this sort of rhythm of compliance where you stop thinking and you start guessing. And you specifically didn't guess, you went to something specific. Right. Right? Now, believe it or not, before we started, I took one card out of this pack at random, and I put it inside next to the Queen of Hearts, right between the Queen of Hearts and the 9 of Clubs. One card. Okay. And I did this at random. So what I did actually is I went through the cards like this, and I took one card out, just straight out of the middle, and I sort of peeked to see what cards in between, in the middle that I put it in between. But if I were to spread through these cards and show you the card, you might suspect me of doing some of that sleight of hand stuff. That's why I want you to spread through. You'll find one card right in the center, right between the Queen of Hearts and the 9 of Clubs, if I remember correctly from earlier today. There is one card.
Queen of Hearts, 9 of Clubs.
I remember, I told you where that was before you announced your card.
Yes, you did.
And you said the 8 of? Diamonds. Spread through real quick. Make sure there's no 8 of diamonds in the pack. Do you see one?
No, I don't.
That's because it's here.
Ah! Ah, that hurt.
So this is my extension of Michael Close's invisible deck. It's great. His original routine, by the way, was based off of or inspired by an Alan Ackerman routine that he massaged a little bit out of the Las Vegas card magic or Cardma. Again, these things are, I wasn't planning on doing this, so if my credits are a little bit off, I apologize. But Michael Close's original routine, of course, used a mem stack, and of course we're using the Redford stack to accomplish this. If you don't know the Redford stack, this should look very random to you. But Michael originally did this. He took half the cards, turned them face up, half the cards face down, so they were butting each other like that, which is pretty cool. Then he would box them up, remembering that the top 26 cards were here and the bottom 26 cards were facing the label of the pack. Then hand somebody the cards, they would name whatever card they named, he would recall the stack position and make sure to take it out with that in the upper half. So for sake of explanation, let's say you said the 2 of diamonds. Okay. So you'd make sure that he would bring that out this way, spread through an estimated push, and spread and secretly call that 2 of diamonds underneath the spread until he got down to the 1 card to show it. He called that to the bottom of the pack, and then he would do a half pass of that bottom half to effectively run that into that position. Very, very clever. The problem is he's looking for a card from a face-up spread, and so is the audience, which he had an edge that they didn't have, and that edge was he knew exactly where the card was because of the memorized stack. So the first thing I wanted to solve is I never wanted to get caught looking for a card and have the audience see it call under the spread. I also didn't like always having to have the in the box at the start. I also didn't necessarily like having to be preset to go. So I wanted to solve all those problems. Here's what I've done. So you can do this impromptu as long as you're in Redford Stack. Technically you can do this impromptu if you're not in Redford Stack by getting into Redford Stack using any of the impromptu methods. You won't go straight to this trick, obviously. You do other things before you get here. But you can take the deck behind your back, pretend to reverse a card, and all you're actually doing is taking the top 26 cards and the bottom 26 cards and putting them face to face. Now I have work in my deck, and that is just a vertical bend, so that when those are face to face at that 26 position, there is a very obvious mouth right there. Hello, how are you? In between, which makes it very easy to cut. If you put a breather into the 9 of clubs, like I suggest in the book, that also helps enhance this little bit of a bend. If you put other work into the top card by doing those little marker dots on the back of that card, that will help you identify which side is which. I don't have any work in these cards right now. This is a virgin deck, so to speak. But because they are now face down or face to face, we can secretly count to any position of the pack because we know the stack positions of every card and easily call it undetected underneath. And there's no heat on this because they're not face up. There's nothing to look at, which is pretty neat. So how do we count quickly and efficiently? Well, we're using Alex Elmsley's technique, the 3-2-2-3 count, which if you are familiar with any of my card work, you know I abuse the heck out of this thing. You know the 3-2-2-3 count, which is simply spreading over 3, spreading over 2, spreading over 2, spreading over 3. That's how I count 10 cards really efficiently while talking. So if we're going to keep with the 2 of diamonds, that is in this top half. This is the top half. This is the bottom 26 cards. This is the top 26 cards. 2 of diamonds is 13 from the top.
And you have to just remember which orientation to remember this based on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I can do that from the box, but the other advantage is because this looks the same on both sides, I can be talking to you and just relax for a moment when you make your decisions, which is very casual for doing this. And the real reason I ask him to not go with the first thing that comes to mind but change his mind is because it gets his attention off of this. If I'm holding this, instead of handing him the deck and taking it out, if I'm holding this and he changes his mind, all the attention is now off this, and it's also, from the audience standpoint, it's now on that other decision because now something's changed and it's become more interesting, refocusing it on the subject, or on the participant. So that's the only reason that exists. And it's kind of a fun presentational thing, but the real reason is more mechanical. Now, if you need to turn this over, please don't do this. That's horrible. I've seen this suggestion as well. Oh, you have a card in mind. Now, the theory behind that is you're not turning it over all at once. You're coming up, it's halfway, but you're also bringing all the attention to it. Don't do that. This is much better. If I relax down and then bring it up, the attention's off of it, and I've turned it over in 2 steps. That way I'm not just doing this. Or just put it in the box and get over yourself. That's fine too. But we're doing the 2 of diamonds. So I'm in the process of explaining to the participant exactly what I did earlier today, which was to go through the cards, take a card out at random. I've just called the 2 of diamonds out of the spread, snuck it onto the bottom. It's there. 2 of diamonds. We got it on that camera. I'm going to put it back in its position. 10, 11, 12, 13. So I can do this for you in real time. So I said earlier today, I spread through the cards. I took 1 card out at random. So I've just pulled that underneath the spread. So there's my 2. It's now just Hofstadter spread called styled underneath the pack. and I'm going to recoalesce the pack, making sure that that ends up on the bottom. But this is done, and it's fairly invisible, because now I'm saying, and I took one card out of the middle, turned it face up, and snuck it right back inside. Now, I can say, because of the way the Redford stack is built, before he names a card that's next to a red queen in the center. It's either going to be the Queen of Diamonds or the Queen of Hearts, depending which side that card comes out of. If it's from the top stock, it'll be between the King of Diamonds and the Queen of Diamonds. If it's from the bottom stock, it'll be between the Nine of Clubs and the Queen of Hearts. So either way, it's still next to a red queen, and you seem to have, and you can reiterate and reprogram to say, now I told you exactly where it was before you named the card. Which is kind of true. It's exactly in the center.
It's great.
And it's next to a red queen. That doesn't work with other stacks, just the way they're built. This was built in part to allow for that. Which is one of the reasons I wanted to tell you about it, because this was not a random thing I put together and went, let's see what I can do with it. I really tried to tinker with it and get all the cards in the right position to do as much as possible. So now I need to do a half pass. And before you go, holy crap, I have to do a what? This is one of the reasons it's not in the book, because I know that a lot of people who like my material aren't sleight of hand guys. Half passes are really intimidating. This is one of the easiest half passes you'll do. Michael Close in the original book, he did a half pass. And by the way, if you don't know what a half pass is, you're taking the bottom half and you're turning them over secretly under the deck. You're passing half the cards, or turning over half the cards. He would do this. He said, come up on stage, and do this awkward thing, which would be great on stage. I wouldn't do this trick on stage. So instead, in turning the deck face up and not bending the cards as I do so, I'm doing a half pass. Let me get back to that point. So I can show you exactly, because of that break that we have, that mouth, it naturally drops to that position. But if I need to finick with this at all, I'm also scripting for it, saying, and I did look directly into the center to see exactly where that card was. And I'm looking to make sure that I've peeked and picked up, exactly in the right place, so I can see my 9 of clubs there. Now, I'm going to half pass, and I'm going to expose it on this camera so you can see it, as these turn over. Now, from Ben's perspective where he is, if I tilt the deck down and forward, there is nothing for him to see as these turn over. It looks just like I've turned over the deck.
It looks like you took a peek.
I took a peek, lower, then turn them over.
Right, yeah.
Now, from my perspective, as you can see, it doesn't look like that at all. It looks like I'm doing, actually it looks pretty good now that I'm watching that camera. So I take that back. It's angle proof. I would never assume that it is angle proof, but it is fairly solid. But I take a peek, and this already starts to turn. Now, by tilting this down and my hand being here blocking this view, from almost all angles, it looks pretty good. Even the side angle, which is probably the worst angle, which is what this camera is looking at here. But as far as he's concerned, nothing has happened. Now, if I do the move and just hand it right over, this will have a lot of heat on it. But if I do the move and hold the deck this way for a moment and pause and dialogue, there's less heat here, because I'm not trying to get rid of it, because I'm not rushing a move and handing it over. So if I pause and I wait and I talk, and just simply say, now if I spread through the cards, you might suspect me of doing something sneaky, which of course is exactly what I've just done, but I want to now take that thought and throw it out of their head, saying, now of course, I haven't had the opportunity to do that. Maybe that's a little bit extreme. Maybe don't say that. But you want to leave that impression that there has not been an opportunity. So I'll tell you what, instead of me spreading through, I want you to spread through. Hand them the cards. Say, remember, I told you exactly where that card was before you named it. So it's right between the Queen of Diamonds and the King of Diamonds, directly dead center in the pack. And they'll start to spread through those face-up cards. And they will find one card between the two cards you just named. The Queen of Diamonds, which is 27, and the King of Diamonds, which is 26 in the Redford stack. And of course, the card they named will be the Two of Diamonds. Now, you could just turn it over and show it, but it's kind of neat to make them search through the rest of the pack. To say, well, you've been spreading through. Do you see a Two of Diamonds amongst those cards?
Nope.
And of course they won't, because it really is that face-down card, thus reinforcing again that this couldn't be sleight of hand and that this really did happen the way that you apparently claimed it did. The Two of Diamonds. So that's my approach to the mem stacked invisible deck. Thank you, Michael Close.
Excellent.